we're ready to go live.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're live.
Thank you, sir. It's called the Public Works and Utilities Committee regular meeting for November 6, 2023 to order. Call, please, Director Wheeler.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Councilor Romero Worth,
I'm here.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Amanda Chavez,
Here.
Councilor Lee Garcia,
He texted me that he ran into some traffic issues and he'll be a little bit late.
and Councilor Chair Rivera.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff?
No changes from staff, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion for approval and a second of the agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, approval of the consent agenda. Any changes from
No changes, Mr. Chair.
committee? Any last minute pulls? Any wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, there was one item pulled, and that was the resolution of legislative priorities for discussion.
Yeah, I think that's listed under discussion.
Oh, it's under
So we have a motion for approval and a second of the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. No presentation or informational items. Nothing was pulled from consent. So we are to action item discussion 7A. Consideration of a resolution sponsored by the mayor, a resolution establishing the city of Santa Fe's priorities for consideration by the New Mexico State Legislature during the 57th Legislature, State of New Mexico, first session, 2024. Anything you want to get started with, Director Wood?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, thank you so much. There's been a number of questions that I wanted to do a little bit of clarifying for. So the legislative priorities resolution, as it does every year, lists the city's top 5 capital requests on the ICIP. And those were decided by the governing body when the ICIP was adopted back in August. We had a September deadline to the DFA for that this year. And those have remained the same since that time. And then the district capital priorities are a list of sort of smaller projects usually that could enhance quality of life in each district, and they're selected by the district counselors. This year, since the projects that were selected as district priorities are actually rather large projects, the amount of funding that was requested correlates to what we indicated to the legislature we would need for the fiscal year 25 expenditure. So for instance, if the project hasn't been designed yet, what you'll find in our fiscal year 25 expenditure is approximately 10 to 20% of the total cost of the project, because we would perform design for that 10 to 20%, and that would take approximately a year and then go back for construction funding in the next fiscal year. If the project is already designed, then the next order of business is to award a construction contract, and that's when you'll see a larger number in the amount requested for the project. And that also correlates to the fiscal year 25 expenditure as indicated in the ICIP. So that's why there's a little bit of difference. And then for one of the amendments, you'll see there was we had an inaccuracy in the amount that we requested for the District 2 priority, the St. Michael's Drive underpass, because we actually already have $4 million of funding from DOT for that project. And so while it's an $8 million project, we only are requesting the remaining funds for construction, which is around $3 million. So I hope that clarifies it. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions for Director Wheeler? All right, and I believe, Councilor Romero Worth, your amendment passed. Any?
I did not have an amendment, Mr. Chair. I believe Councilwoman Villarreal had a cleanup amendment, Amendment B, that passed in finance. I did notice Councilor Lindell has a technical amendment in the caption because it's the 57th Legislature State of New Mexico second session, 2024, not first. So I'm happy to move that amendment if we want to do it. It's just another cleanup.
Yeah, why don't you, if you want to take that one?
Okay, I'd move passage of the amendment sponsored by Councilor Lindell to change first session to second session.
Is that Amendment C?
I believe
E.
it, E. yeah.
E. Thank you
No,
very
E is an elephant.
much. Oh, E. Thank you.
We have a motion,
Second.
that's just for the title, correct?
Yes.
Second? Any discussion? Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, seeing none, motion carries. There was some, I'll take the next one, but there was some discussion about my amendment at finance. And there was some miscommunication between myself, Director McDonald, and Director Wheeler. If you want to explain that, Director Wheeler, why the MRC sports irrigation upgrades? Because I think there were people that were in favor of the upgrades for turf and the water savings. And why?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Yes, the original a district request was for the MRC irrigation repair, and it is a extremely important activity. And it's so important that there'll be a recommendation to governing body to fund that immediately, actually, because it'll take some time to repair. And without repairing that, we would be at risk of using more potable water. And so while that'll be funded 100% immediately, hopefully with the approval of the governing body, it was important to find another district priority to replace that.
All right, and the amount is pretty large, so I assume that there hasn't been a plan.
Chairman, can you remind me which project we're talking about? I'm sorry, I don't know, I'm not looking at the amendment or the project.
It's the Paseo del Sol infrastructure and road project.
Thank you so much. Yes, the reason actually that one's so large is that it will be designed. It's in design. It's at about beyond 60%. It was funded with an $800,000 grant from DOT. And so the next order of business will be to provide some construction funding to the affordable housing developer to offset their costs to keep the housing at Tierra Contenta Phase 3 more affordable. So that's why the number's large. Any amount will help. And the city actually has a strategy generally that since there's 40% affordable housing at Tierra Contenta, that it could pay for 40% of the infrastructure according to the Affordable Housing Act. And so, we wouldn't expect to fund the entire thing. So some number of, we had always been targeting maybe another $2.5 million contribution towards that road.
Thank you. Councilor Lee Garcia, we were just catching up on the District 3 priority, which went from MRC irrigation upgrades to Paseo del Sol infrastructure. Do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not too many. Well, I guess I could just chime in a little bit because we did have a conversation about it. And in regards to, we are already asking for money on our top 5 for MRC projects, but I believe that the importance of the connection there on the Paseo del Sol around, not just for housing, which is going to be integral in that area for the development of another 1,500 houses, 40% affordability, by the way. But not only that, but it also provides such a strength in the network for public safety. And I think that is where really did get me to be on board with supporting this, so. So we're at. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Can I make a motion? Make a motion for approval of Amendment C.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? See none. Motion carries. B is the one that passed at finance.
Right, and you know, it occurs to me, Mr. Chair, that we probably should have had a motion to approve this resolution before we started adding these amendments. So I don't know if you want to take that on now. So I'd make a motion to approve the resolution as amended. Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
This would be final vote.
A get passed as well?
Amendment A, I don't believe is being offered tonight. I think it's being reworked. And it did not, Mr. Chair, Amendment A was discussed at finance, but was not acted upon, so it's just floating out there. And there will be an Amendment D at governing body to change the District 2 priority amount as Director. Why am I spacing your last name, Regina? Wheeler, there we go. As Director Wheeler outlined at the front of the meeting.
We have a motion and a second with all the amendments that were before us. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? See none. Motion carries. Again, thank you, Director Wheeler. In the past, these have been kind of knockdown, drag-out fights, and leadership was smooth and much appreciated for that. We don't have an executive session. Matters from staff, Director Wheeler.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Well, we're on the topic of the legislative priorities resolution. I hope that you're all aware that there's a tentative date for the legislative breakfast, December 8th. We are working on the the booklet that we create every year. It's going to be the best booklet ever, super clear and consistent, I think. And we'll be, we're almost at a final draft of that, so that'll be available electronically and in booklet form. The breakfast is being tentatively scheduled at the airport. So we'll all get to go out there and see the new facilities, and the legislators will get to feel the space that they helped us create. And